Hello there everyone and welcome back to the channel. Let me just get stuff out of the way and where it should be. Hello, hello, hello. I hope you are all safe and well. It is Sunday night and it's a holiday night here in the UK because it's a bank holiday tomorrow. So that means I might go a little bit longer tonight. But anyways, what a few days it has been. And there is an awful lot to talk about from this week because not only have we had DJI finally release that new firmware for the goggles too, which gives support for their consumer drones, but it's not quite what we think, as always with DJI. We've also had a number of other things as well, including the Orca situation, which has been developing all weekend, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Now, before we get into everything, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Let me just get it up on my screen so I can see it properly here. Hello, Smags FPV. You were the first. I hope you are well, my friend. Hello there, Eddie. Hello, Mike. Kimbo. Stream Elements. That's one of mine. Bad for life, I should say. Mike, Mitch, Robert Nelson. How are you? How are you? How are you? Eric. Now, there's a lot to talk about tonight, and we're also going to take a look at some other things as well, including a new build that I've just finished this minute, based on the Flyfish RC motors and frame, but with a Fat Tech flight controller. And we'll also talk about a dangerous power supply that comes with a 3D printer filament dryer, which I ordered off Amazon. And it's like, wow, really? You're shipping that like that, are you, Amazon? Really? And we'll talk about that too. Now, as always, I will try and answer any questions you guys have got as well as we move through. Now, the big news this week, and I'm going to go to a clear background for this one, and I have got a cup of tea. The big news this weekend has been the Orca situation, and we'll do a bit of a QA on this in a minute. I've actually put out 2 videos on this weekend. The reason was the first video was sort of a PSA. The second video was a PSA, but with a bit more info. But things have developed since I put that video out today as well. And we're now in a situation where it's looking like the fix that they said they had isn't actually working, or at least it isn't working for some. It is working for others. There are people who have confirmed it working, and those fixes are twofold. There is the fix of updating the firmware before the goggles brick, and you can do that on any of the goggles. So whether that be the Orca FPV1s, the FPV1 pilots, or the FPV1 race. Or if you are bricked, you are only able to do this process, which is invasive, involves tearing down the FPV1 pilots or the others, which are the version 2s. And yeah, it's been a real hard weekend. Now, for those who have been under a rock, I will summarize very, very quickly. And there is an Orca owner in the chat who I messaged earlier. And for those who don't fully understand, the very basics of this are, on the 29th of April, there was a bug in the Orca goggles in the firmware related to the clock that basically soft bricked the goggles. They ended up showing you a bootloader screen, which I'll put up in a second, and I did cover this in the video. They end up showing you this bootloader screen, which looks like this. Oh, no, it doesn't. Let me find the right screen. No, not that one. Where is it? Sorry, that one. Sorry. So it looks like this is the bootloader screen. So this is what you'll get. But you may also get this image as well. Now, this bug is triggered by the date of the 29th of April 2023. So if you power on your goggles with a clock that is set properly, or you set the clock properly and it is on or after the 29th of April 2023, the goggles will basically soft brick. Now, there is a huge argument over this term brick, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a brick. A brick, in my opinion, is something that happens when you can't recover through a reboot, reset. If you have to go and do something more invasive, update the firmware, reflash it, take them apart to bootloader, fix them, then that's what I class as a brick. It might be a soft brick, and you may be able to recover, but a brick is a term I use when it doesn't work properly, and you can't recover it in the field. So, this affects, as we understand it, every goggle Orca have ever made. That is, as far as I know, from day one. Period. That means if you are an owner and you turn them on, they're going to enter this state. Now, Orca had been working all weekend, and I want to say something. And look, I don't really know the guys over at Orca. I had a very short conversation with Ivan once. I'd messaged Tony in the past from Immersion RC, and I did send him a message this morning, which he hasn't replied to because he's probably up to his eyes in it, or he's just ignoring me. I want to wish everyone over there all of the best because, look, as bad as we think this is, their weekend is worse. Right? Let's be under no illusion. Can you imagine a situation where every one of your products is basically going to stop working today? And I know Orca make other things, but look, their main product, every one of their product is going to stop working when the user turns it on. We can debate if it should have happened, their policies and all of that stuff, and their customer service and their, why did this happen, the cause and everything all day long, right? But right now, there are very few people in FPV going through what those guys are going through. They are having the worst weekend there is, period. So, look, there will be time to dissect this. And what we need to judge them on is this. We need to judge Orca on how they deal with this. And I will be honest, they get a 10 out of 10 from me so far. And I don't give that out lightly. They get a 10 out of 10 for what they've done so far. Ignore the issue, but they have tried a lot. Now, we do have a bit of an update because since I did that video, they've basically now taken offline that original post. And now they've put up this new post, which I'll share with you now, which is this one here. Let me just make it bigger so you can see it. And it's an update on the situation. And basically what they have done is taken down the recovery process and basically said they're still looking into it, but the chances are they're putting a contingency plan in place to get every goggle back and then repair them and get them back into the user. And they're saying over the next 48 hours. Now, there are people who have been doing this recovery process, and it seems to be working for some, but not others. And we will talk a bit more about that. Mike Bergman mentioned that. I have got that on my list, Mike, and we will talk. And I said I give them a 10 out of 10. Actually, I don't. I give them a 9, and there is a reason for that. But yeah, so they've basically withdrawn the document. Now, the document is still available. It's still on my video. There's a link to it in my video. I need to find that myself because I haven't got the link here. But there is a link to it in the description of my video. It is still available, but they've removed their post with that on. Let me just pause it. You can still get to it, so it is still available here. And you can still follow the process, but the very basics are they've now taken this offline from a public point of view. But yeah, the very basics are there. Now, it's a mess. Let's be frank. It's an absolute shocking mess. And I really do feel for them, but I feel for the users more. Now, here and now, the very basics today are, officially, they've taken that post down, which I just showed you. So here and now, they're not officially offering a solution. If you want and you have a set of goggles, you could try following the version of the recovery process if you haven't powered them up. and see if it works. If it doesn't, they're going to end up bricked, but the chances are they're going to have to go back anyway. If yours are already bricked and you're on a V1 goggle, there really isn't a solution right now. The PCB layout in the V1 goggle is actually different to the PCB layout in the version 2. I've already looked at this, and the pads that they talk about in this document here. So if I show you this, this is the document for the V2 goggle, which is the race and the pilot. They show you the pads here that you need to short. They are not there on the V1 goggle. If I go to my Discord and if I just scroll up, the amazing Tweet FPV, who has torn his goggles down, posted some pictures after I asked. And here you can see, if I just open that in the browser, you can see the board and the pads are not there. So if we look at the original document, which is this one, you can see there are 2 pads next to that chip. If I just zoom in there, you can see, so you've got the flash bond chip there and then those 2 pads. On these goggles, it isn't the same. There is, well, that's not a pad. There are some pads here, but we don't know if they're the same. We don't know if it's one of these, but the board layout is different. There's an RST down here. We don't know what that does. So it does appear to be the case that the PCB has changed. It is possible the pads on the V1 goggle are underneath. We just don't know if they're there at all. We don't know because we don't fully understand. Also, the V1 goggle is quite a bit more difficult to take apart than the V2. It's held together, I think, as it was mentioned by Tweet, by a lot of foam and sticky tape and glue, which is going to make the teardown a lot more difficult. Now, as it is right now, there's no official solution. You can try what they've put in the document, but the chances are the goggles are going to have to go back. Now, as I said earlier, I can't fault their response, but I actually can, and someone did mention it. They've done a good job of highlighting this on social media, so they've put a lot of posts out like this. There was a lot of posts in the Orca lounge. You can't knock them for social media. However, there is nothing on the Orca website. If you go to the Orca blog, so if we go to the website and go to their blog, there is nothing on here. It just says Orca is hiring. There is no message when you go here. When you go to support, there is nothing here. There's no pop-up. There's no warning whatsoever. Now, this could simply be because they're not in the office the weekend. And the people who would do this are not in the office the weekend either. However, they do seem to have driven it via social media more than on their own website. Which does sort of say, okay, whereas I said a 10 out of 10, I'm sorry, it's going to have to be an 8. What we can't fault, though, is their overall response to attempt to fix it. But, yeah, it's a bad one. I can't think of a single thing that has had a failure this way in FPV on such a mass scale. Just to think about it, every one of their goggles ever manufactured, as we understand it, will brick itself as of the 29th of the 4th. That is every one in a user's hands, but that's every one in a box in a retailer. There will be customers who bought a goggle yesterday, took them home, opened them up, set the clock, and it would have bricked. So, it's a real horrible situation for them. It's a real horrible situation. It just is. And look, I genuinely feel for them. I wish everyone at Orca all of the best. Look, for users, number one, we need to get this sorted, and we hope we'll get this sorted. And it will get sorted. I have full confidence. There is, though, going to be some time here. You know, there are people who are going to have gone out and flown the weekend and went to use their goggles and couldn't. There are people who are sitting on goggles who are expecting to use them tomorrow and stuff, and they won't be able to do it. It isn't good. In the end, and as GMI just mentioned there, more than anything, it will damage reputation. They'll get this sorted. I'm pretty confident of that. But in the end, it will be reputation that gets damaged. But reputation will recover. They will be judged now on how they deal with this. The response so far has been very, very good. Not perfect, but very, very good. But they did email users. They did post it on social media. They did a bloody good job overall. Not perfect, but they did a good job. Now it's going to be down to how they recover from this. I don't know how many goggles they've sold. I could spitball 20 to 30,000 units, and I could be way too low. But even if you imagine they had to ship back 20k units, and if we just say $20 shipping each way and a replacement face mask, that's $400,000 in just fixing 20,000 goggles. And even the worst thing here is this isn't goggles failing over a period of time. This is goggles failing all at the same time. So this isn't having a stream of 200 or 300 goggles a month coming in. The chances are this is going to be a boom land on the table. And I don't know how many goggles they've sold. I do have numbers in my head of another goggle sold, and I'm using that as a baseline. But I could be wrong. But remember, Orcas are a high-end goggle. We do know, and I did put a video on this, that there were about 5,000 HD0 VRX modules sold under the Fat Shark brand. So if we think about it, there were 5,000 of those sold. Yeah. So I don't know, 20, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 units, I don't know. But even if they had to do 20,000 repairs, as I said, you could be talking $400,000 in cost alone. Luckily that there's no hardware here, so they don't have to replace the hardware on these goggles, as far as we're aware. But yeah, it's bad. It's as bad as it comes. Kevin Jameson just said, I successfully did the firmware reset on my pilots. I won't risk an RMA if they continue to work. That is great news. And that is proof that that process, the one I posted, does work for some people. Just to confirm, Kevin, was it the recovery with taking them apart, or was it the update before they brick that you did? I do believe the update before they brick is the part that is less reliable, as I understand it. Cool. Very good. The teardown and recovery. Brilliant. So, this clearly does work. So if you are in a situation, but this is only going to work for V2 owners, which is a shame. It's not a crazy process. It's not a crazy process. Peppermint, I don't know if you're going to do yours, what your plan is. I'm not driving past Cardiff this week. Does anyone know the percentage of HD0 goggles having optics issues? Mike Bergman, no. For this batch, I don't. I think it's fairly common, but I wouldn't say it's everyone. Could they stop in mid-flight? Elmo Hawk has asked. I don't know. It seems to be predominantly you'll fire them up and they'll work, and then you'll turn them off and then they'll come back on in this bootloader mode. And that actually does make some sense, because probably the clock is running in the background, but the firmware isn't. So you power them up, the firmware then reads that date and carries on, and then when you power it down, it must at that point either set a flag to do something or do, erase something, and then when you go to use them again, they're in the brick question. GMI asks, question is, what can Orca now bring to the hobby to stay relevant? And we'll talk about that because we have had another interesting comment on Orca this week by Ivan, actually, and I will talk about that in a minute, around the Orca digital FPV system. So we will talk about that in a minute as well. But really, so just to summarize on the goggles, it affects all models. There really isn't an official process right now to recover, although V2s, you can follow the process that they did release. Chances are all V1s are probably going to have to go back. That's as I understand it today. Turned off, get the crash dome bricked when power back on. Yeah, Kevin, that was his experience. I suspect it is as simple as you run them, it gets today's time and date, it sets a flag, or it crashes, it does something internally, and then on the reboot it doesn't work. It seems that someone put this bug to the firmware on purpose. We don't know. Look, anything other than what we know is speculation. Is it odd? Yes. Is it some random arbitrary bug or something that someone put in not realizing many, many years ago? I don't know. It seems to be on every firmware version, which seems to imply it's sort of in the bootloader area, or at least the base firmware level. It's weird. It's weird. But look, genuinely, a message to me, to the guys at Orca. I wish you all the best. I hope you get it sorted. We will be watching this one out. I'm sure someone will find out why or how. Yeah, I tell you what would be amazing on this, and a piece of advice to Orca. Go full clarity. Go 100% open with what caused this. Just tell everyone. Just say, we messed up. A stupid thing. I'm sorry. Don't bury this. Give us the detail, because at least that way people would like to know, and people would like an answer, and they'll have one. So please do consider giving us the answer. Imagine putting this in the code in case you got fired. Yes. Now, some of the comments I just want to make on this before I move on is, what it does show is issues with closed source systems. But not only that, we need better recovery processes being put in place for goggles. And this isn't only Orca. For those who remember when the Avatar HD goggles were bricking, you had to take them apart to get to the internal USB port or the internal UART that is in there. So there's a UART in the Avatar HD goggles. We've now got these that you're having to go inside to find the pads. Manufacturers need to do a better job of putting something in place for the doomsday scenario. Orca are in doomsday scenario today. All of their goggles are bricking themselves outside of their control. That's doomsday. If they had put those pads accessible in the back of the module bay on the PCB, this would have been so much easier. There is a huge lack of foresight by pretty much all of the manufacturers on what to do if the very worst case happens. HD0 do have a new, better recovery process, which is great to see. But we really do need companies to start really thinking, we're developing $300, $400, $500, $600 products. What if the firmware needs a complete reflash? Should we put a debug UART port the user can get to? I know they don't want to do it because they don't want people to mess around with it. But if you don't give the option, then you will end up in a situation like this. The recovery process for Walksnail was going inside, accessing the UART via serial, and then being able to access it with the root code, root password. We don't have that root password now because they changed it, but the original root password, I can't remember what it was. Was it Walksnail? No, or was it Artisan? They left the root password to say. They need to put pads available. Welcome to Andy. That was it, Junus. That was it. Welcome to Andy. How did we find that in the first place? Was it stored somewhere open? How did we get that? How did... A seed fund for Advanced Tech V2 ruler. Thanks, Carl. I reversed. That was it. You reversed the bootloader. But yeah. But look, it is a bad, or reset to factory SD card. New one is heavily obfuscated. Yeah. Look, these companies don't give access, but if it goes wrong, you end up in this situation, and that's what you got to take into account. And look, let's be open and honest. They're making DJI look good right now. As bad as DJI is, DJI haven't had a product brick in a very, very long time. A very, very long time. So it's a mess. It really is a complete mess. Just wow. But look, we'll see what happens. That's all there really is to say. Right, before I move on, I'm going to catch up on the super chats because we had a couple come in whilst I was talking. Now, the first one was from High Tech. Thank you, my friend, for a $10 super chat. I really do appreciate that. And another one was from Carl B. Seed funding for the V2 Mads Tech ruler. I need to do that. For those who don't know what the Mads Tech ruler is, I got one to hand because I have been using one a bit on the channel recently. It's this thing here, and it does deserve a V2. There's a very few of these out in the real world. But this was a Mads Tech PCB ruler that I designed. Let me go to the overhead so you guys can see. And on it was lots of information like DB to RF conversion. Obviously a measuring ruler, so it's 12 inches, just over 12 inches, 30 centimeters. You've got the analog and digital channel spacing, info for Express ELRS, Crossfire, Ghost, and all of the others, LiPo voltages, motor sizing, as well as a motor down there. And some of this was done in the gold etching just to make it look good. And then, if I spin it over, this was the pièce de résistance. On the back, we had all of the common receiver pinouts. So we have EP1 and 2, Crossfire, TBS Tracer, HD0 Race version 2 board, DJI version 1 VTX, Vista. We had some other stuff, then capacitor stuff, the hacks for DJI FPV, the flight controllers, which came out a bit small, stick menus, which are hiding up here because I always forget what they are myself. And then we've got camera angles. And there's also lots of other stuff down here as well. So you've got stuff like soldering iron temperatures recommended down here along the bottom. And then some other LiPo battery at the top. Info along there as well. But yeah, it probably warrants an update and another batch. Ants Athletes, I think it is. Hello, I have the original Orcas from 3 years ago, and they have this new. I have to use new software issue. I have to use new software issue. What should I do? So, Ants, are you saying your goggles are showing either that bootloader screen or that image that I showed just now? So just to be clear, if I go on the desktop, you are seeing either this or this. Oh, I'm not on the desktop, I'm on the overhead. Sorry. So you're seeing this or this, just to be clear. If that is the case, there is no resolution for the V1s. You're going to have to wait for Orca to come up with a solution. There is a very real possibility you're going to have to send them back to be reflashed at the factory. As for what can you do today, I am sorry to say nothing. Can you demonstrate top plate removal on the Orca goggles? I don't have a set, unfortunately. I don't have a set myself, or I would have done a video on the recovery process. I had a loan set by the man in the chat here, but I don't own a set. I'm not going to buy a set just to brick them. But if anyone wants to send me a set to recover, reach out. So, as I've said, it really does mean that people need to do better on the recovery. You really do. You do need to see more manufacturers doing a better job of giving proper recovery options. You know, I'm not saying the others are perfect. Avatar has had its issues. HD Zero's had its issues. Fat Shark's had its issues. Everyone has. What we haven't seen, though, is someone have issues on this scale before. This is unprecedented in FPV as I've seen it. But yeah. And at the moment, where you bought them and how you bought them, as I understand it, will be irrelevant. You will be able to send them back and get them fixed. But there isn't a solution today. They will sort you out. This isn't about warranty. This isn't about where you bought your goggles. This isn't about how old they are. They will sort you out. Tweets put a video up. I thought he might be doing one. FPV Tech. Hello, my friend. How are you? It's been a while. Hello, Ian. Just an update. Kaiju antenna dual band is compatible with O3 air unit. Avatar drone FPV remote controller. Kaiju 2 come in for goggles too. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Yeah, the Kaiju, if you haven't seen, I actually have a video on the Kaiju. I'll go and find it in a minute. It's over there. It's not on a set of goggles at the moment. It was. Kaiju, it's a very, very, very good. I flew... Actually, I can't say that. I'll get myself into trouble. It did better than any other antenna that I had used on the V2 goggles and the DJI FPV drone. That's what I will say. I can't say what I was going to say because I'll get myself in trouble. And no problem at all. Yeah, you will be sorted. There is a form you can complete. And if you don't know what it is, I'm going to put it in the chat for you now just so you can. Orca are asking people to complete this form. Okay, so here's the post on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, go to Facebook. And there is a form here. I will copy this and put it in the chat for you now. You will need to complete that form. Do that, and they will look after you. What's behind me? Oh, there might be my other chair is behind me. If that, you might have been seeing that. My other chair. Unless you're talking in the background. The link is forbidden. Oh, look at that. Okay, that's weird. Let me try it from Facebook. Let me try it. It might be because I copied it from Facebook. Try that. Yeah, that should work now. It's because of the way I copied it. There you go. Try that now. That second one should work. Someone tell me if it is. Works. There we go. It was just the way, for some reason, it copied from Facebook. There we go. So use that one. If you've got a set, fill that in. Yeah, what more can we say? What a mess. What a mess. Look, what I will say is this. No one wants Orca to end over this. No one wants Orca to end over this at all. It is a bad, bad situation. Hopefully, they'll get it sorted soon. Now, one last thing I'm going to mention, whilst we're talking about Orca, because someone asked about digital FPV, and I'm trying to find it. Someone asked about digital FPV, and Orca did actually respond, which was quite interesting. Let me just find it. Someone asked on the Orca's Lounge, what's happening with the digital FPV system? Is it ever going to be released? And I even actually replied on it. And I'm just trying to find the actual post because it's quite interesting when you read it. Here we go. So, Orca transmission anytime soon. It's been years. I am HD ready. And I even actually replied on this. And his response has been taken sort of out of context here and there. But what he has said is this. Until we have a solution that can compete with what is best on the market currently, Orca will not release a digital FPV system, or a digital system, I should say, for consumer FPV. Until we have a solution that can compete with what is best on the market currently, Orca will not release a digital system for consumer FPV. So what they're saying is, until they can make a product that's as good as whatever they deem the best, and they don't actually go on to talk about what is the best. Let me just go back on that because I came off it. Someone started having a go at them that they didn't care about customers and they should make a product anyway. But that's just dumb. But yeah, what they've said is this. They care about customers. What is the point of making a system if they can't compete? Now, do I believe the reason they never made a system is because they didn't feel they could compete? No. I don't buy that. What I don't think is they had anything ready. And look, I will say this. Cadex caught everyone out. And I have openly said having 3 digital systems in the market is tough. It isn't going to be easy for anyone. DJI will survive, but DJI, I'll be honest, is moving away from traditional FPV. I've spent a few nights this weekend, flying this thing, which is the IH3, which is a sort of 3.5-inch cine quad. And look, 03 is really good for flying and doing some nice filming. What it isn't good for is bando bashing because it's expensive, it's heavy, and it easily breaks. And I'll be honest, I think DJI are basically abandoning bando freestyle FPV pilots. They just got no interest. What they're making is a semi-filming FPV system. And that means the space is left for Cadex and the space is left for HD0. And HD0 very much fits into the freestyle market and the racing market, whereas Cadex fits pretty much into the freestyle market and not racing. But what it means is there's 3 systems competing. DJI have carved their own niche before they started. They've already carved out their world, and that leaves the other 2. And I'll be honest, I think it's hard for anyone else to even step in. And I don't think Orca had a product that was remotely ready to go. And what I do know is this. No one saw the Cadex system coming. We all thought that was the new DJI system. There were leaks about the Cadex system months in advance. And we all thought there was a new DJI system. No one saw the Cadex thing. No one saw it at all. So it has caught a lot of people out, the Cadex release, and I think they're doing well. I think they're doing okay. It's not perfect. It's definitely not 03. That's for sure. But here's some really interesting comments. This system is actually not nice to fly at low frame rates. And here's an interesting observation. I had not flown 03 that much in 30 frames a second mode. I had flown 03 a huge amount in 60 and 100 to get the low latency mode. But I'll be honest, I hadn't flown much in 30. Man, there is some stuttering in 30 frames a second mode. And I now see what Steele was on about. I now know what Steele was talking about. There is a lot of stuttering in this at low frame rates. And the problem is, you're not in the low latency mode either. And that really does make this a difficult system at times. Because if you want low latency, you have to fly in 100 frames a second with the goggles too, or 120 frames a second on the V2s. If you want to replace your GoPro, you want to be down at 30 frames a second, but then you're in normal latency mode, and the latency isn't terrible. I actually don't have a problem with the latency. What I have a problem with is the stuttering of the image in 30 frames a second mode. It's quite bad. I was shocked how I've spent like a week and a half flying this a lot in 30 frames a second mode. And the reason I was doing it in 30 is because I was trying to match for the footage of the review. And it's bad. It's like bad at times. It's not ideal for people who are bando bashing and things like that. Look, O3 looks amazing. There is no better FPV system that looks. There is no better looking FPV system than O3. Period. End of. Non-negotiable. Move on. It works extremely well. Its overall performance is outstanding, but it isn't perfect at everything it does. And in fact, I wouldn't say it is the best at anything. It is probably one of the best for range. It is one of the best. It's the best for image quality, but it isn't the best for latency, and it isn't the best for everything else. And DJI really are not, in my opinion, aiming at that freestyle market. If they were, I think they would release another camera without gyro stabilization, replaceable lens, a more traditional camera for it. I think if they were. But and I just don't think it's, look, that's not a big market they're after. For wing users, this thing's just amazing. So it's a different market, and it's a market they moved this system into. And I always said it would. You know, I always said when I knew about this, and I knew a lot about it beforehand through various methods, and I always said this was not going to be for everyone. And I stand by that today. It was never going to be the product that everyone wanted. The second I knew what it was going to be, I always thought it was never going to be what people wanted for a V2 system. What it is, though, is a new system that really does offer something that no one else does. And it's by far the most popular. DJI, it's by far the most widely used. It's by far the most reliable. You know, they're at the end of the day, if someone said to me tomorrow, what FPV system would you buy? If they weren't racing, I'd be telling them to get O3, to be honest. I still would, because I still think it's one of the best. But it is expensive. And look, you know, in the review, I talk about the price of this quad. This quad is $560, but you have to take into account $230 of that is the air unit and camera. And that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But yeah, you know, I think as for Orca and bringing in a fourth system, I just don't think there's a hole in the market for it. It does look wonderful. Oh yeah, look, hands down, this looks beautiful. And look, the video for this goes live tomorrow, and I've done a lot of stabilization on the footage. And look, this drone is okay. It's not perfect. It needs bigger motors. But yeah, I think Avatar, though, is more for your price conscious, your bando bashing FPV pilot. I think that's where Avatar really finds this market. Now, and I've just, funny enough, and that leads me nicely, actually. I've just built this, and I'll just put it on the overhead. There will be a video coming on this, actually, but I have just built this Flyfish RC. This has the new Avatar V2 camera and the VTX in there. I decided to go Avatar, not O3. Overall, it's a nice build. There is a FetTech flight controller in there. We're going to be flying Alpha. Now it is working. I'm not putting a GPS on it yet. I'll be doing that in the future. But yeah, this is the Flyfish dead cat frame. It's a heavy quad. I can say that. It really is. I've got that V2 camera up front. This is the one without the gyro, so I won't be stabilizing it. I literally finished the build on this today. Overall, not come out too bad. Express ELRS in the back. This is their fly fish motors, the Success ones, so we're going to be flying with them as well. Very similar to iFlight. Very, very similar. Got the Hobbywing ESC in it. No, these 3D prints come with it. I didn't print these myself. You are right. They are very funky. If you look at the colors on the arms, yeah, multicolor. Yeah, they do come with it as standard. So that is just finished. I've just got to put like the sticky pad on for the battery and the strap, and she's ready to rock and roll. But there's a FetTech G4 in there. Really interesting to set up that. Had some problems getting it activated, but I've got it working now. But yeah, very interesting flight controller. Hard mounted. I had to put some nuts in to stack up above the ESC. You can just see that down there as well. Obviously, we're on the 20x20 mounting on the back. I bet it's nice to work on. It's okay. Although I have some complaints, the screws do round quite easily. And you've got these two small screws at the back here, which do go into standoffs that round very, very easily. I'll be honest, I think you need better screws on this quad. These ones are not too bad. The countersunks are fine as of these. It's the 20x, it's the very small ones that are rounding very easily. It won't crash well. Like, a lot of these quads don't crash well these days. I don't know. I don't know what the price of this frame is. We can have a look. We can have a look. So, Flyfish RC. This is the Volador 2 frame. 5.6 inch. Oh, I clicked on the motors, look. So, I've got the dead cat. So I think, is it that one? $65. I think it's that one. Yes, it is. Should be that one there. This was a kit I put together, but it wasn't a full kit from them. So I built this from various parts. So they sent me the frame and motors. I had the flight controller. I had the ESC. I had all of the others. I think if I was look, I get to see a lot of frames, and it's an interesting comment. If I was someone breaking frames all of the time, I would pick one frame and stick with it, whether it be an Apex, whether it be, to be honest, TBS Source 1, something like that. I'd be using something that is always the same. Always the same. I'd be always choosing the same frame. I get to see a lot of frames on this channel, and I'll be honest, most of the frames I see are 03. They're not bando bashing frames. Look, very few of these frames, in my opinion, are bando bashing frames. They're more for general flying, is the term I'll use. Terminal insanity. Is it just me, or did Flyfish come out of nowhere and suddenly have a full stack of products? Yes. The motors look a lot like the Zings. And that isn't a bad comment, but they do look a lot like them. So I don't know if there's a link there. Just catching up on the chat a moment. Right. Ramos, I think he put it correct label on the products when he said HC0 for racing, Walkstyle for freestyle, and DJI for cinematics. Myself awaiting both HC0 and Walkstyle goggles, DJI. Have I used an Aurora frame? DK asks. No, I haven't. I think DJI 03 and Walksnail in flight are comparable, but actual footage quality from 03 is better. O3 is a lot better. It's still better than Avatar Live View. Avatar is nice, but it's not quite O3. The Cat Father, Ian, how are you? After watching the live where you showed us the TBS Discovery, I got myself a pair of 4 Inspire 1 Pro motors. Do I mind sharing the ESCs and props you were using? Right, ESCs I was using was the DJI 620s, but I don't know if you'll get them anymore. I would just pick a third-party ESC. Bring back the Thug. The Thug's hanging up there. She's up there somewhere. Yeah, you can't beat the Thugs. Yeah, O3 is night and day. But I think products-wise, they're in different stacks. DJI really isn't everyday FPV at the moment, and that could change. You know, look, if DJI got off their bottom and released an updated Vista-style air unit on a single board, which they could do, and third-party cameras with more traditional lenses, they would recapture the traditional FPV market in a heartbeat. The real restriction for people bando bashing, for people really flying hard FPV with O3, is the cameras. You break with the lens, you're stuffed. You've got to change the camera. There's no spare parts. It's an expensive way to do FPV. It's very good, but it's expensive. And it's as expensive as breaking a GoPro. Long range, probably O3. Dual board. What we need from HD0 is a dual board 20x20 1 watt VTX. GMI Visuals said, I should say, what we need from HD0 is a dual board 20x20 1 watt VTX. 1 watt plus VTX. I can't comment on that. What's the O3 range limit? 23.4 kilometers. I just did that and bought the lens cap this time. Oh, well done. You got away with it. I'm wrecked my Orcas. Firmware. Athix FPV. Look, HD0 have made dual boards VTXs before. It didn't go down well. So I don't know if we would want a dual board. We'll have to see, I suppose, if it was ever to happen. I can't comment on what HD0 may or may not do in the future. If we think about dual board VTX, they did make the 500 milliwatt one. Did have its issues. So if we were to have one in the future, I'd hope it would get around those issues. I'm wrecked my Orca's firmware. I really like that frame. Very iFlight looking. It is very iFlight looking. So are the motors. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But the quality of the frame is good. I'll be honest, the instructions are crap. They're not very good. It's not the easiest frame to put together neither. It could be better, but it has some really nice features. It really is. I literally finished building it tonight. So, yeah, haven't flown it yet. It's got the Poxy 200. Am I going to FPV Drone Fest? Potentially, as long as I'm not on holiday. I need to check. The motors definitely look and feel a lot like things. Right. Yeah, I finished the build this afternoon, so it's come out quite nice. Not too bad at all. Okay, we need to move on. Next, we're going to talk quickly about DJI, and that is the Goggles 2 and the Integras have finally had the update that brings support for the Mavic 3. The Mavic 3 Classic, the Mavic 3 Pro, and the Mini 3 Pro. Now, there has been a lot of hoo-ha on this, and I did put out a video just talking about it. I don't have any of those drones myself to test, but the hoo-ha was that DJI only gave you support for these goggles with the DJI Motion Controller version 2, the Motion 2, whatever we're going to call it, the DJI Love Toy, the DJI Sausage, whatever term I'm going to use for it, the Sausage 2, I should say. Whichever it is, it only has support for that. However, some people have found a workaround. A workaround? A workaround. And that workaround allows you to use your original remote. However, the very basics are you have to take off and fly with the remote and then turn on the goggles and it will connect. It will give you an error. It will show the image on the screen with an error and it will stop showing it on the remote, but it will warn you that you shouldn't do this. Now, there are a bunch of videos showing this at the moment. It isn't clear if this is actually working properly. Some people say it is and some people say it isn't. What I have found interesting is, and there's my video there, is some of the DJI tied to KOLs have said, don't do this, it's a bug, it could cause you to lose your drone. DJI won't warrant you if you did. I have a feeling DJI are going to shut this down. So be prepared. If you're using this, it may go away. Don't update if new firmware comes. I would hope DJI actually bring this support properly, is what I hope, rather than the bloody madness of forcing people into using the motion controller. And I will be clear again. There is zero acceptable excuse for DJI to restrict the use of the remote controller on the Mavic 3 or the Mini 3 when using the FPV goggles. It is complete and utter bullshit to expect it any other way than work. There is no technical excuse. There is no logical reason. There is no acceptable reason for this limitation other than DJI wanting to force you down another road. If they had put in the release notes, for now it will only work with this, but in the future we will bring remote support, I would have been more than happy. But they haven't. They have basically said they have only made it compatible with that DJI Motion 2. They have had to write the bloody software to get that Motion 2 working on those drones because it didn't work before. So you can't tell me they couldn't have done it any other way. I will not accept that it is a technical limitation. I will not accept that it is a good idea. It is not. It is nothing more than product segmentation done intentionally to force people down certain lines. Oh, you want to fly the FPV drone with a remote control? Then you're going to have to go and buy an Avata, or you're going to go and have to buy a DJI Potato. Oh, but if you can buy the goggles and fly it with this, and we're going to bundle you in this remote controller that we can't sell anywhere else, yeah, we'll do that for $700, but we're not going to let you use the remote. It is just BS. Utter nonsense. Zero excuse. And people say, right, DJI are like Apple. They're not. They're not remotely like Apple. Apple get a lot of flack for being a walled garden. It's not walled. I use Macs. I got 3 Macs. I got an iPhone, right? And I use a PC. I use a PC because I have to. I would rather be using a Mac every day of the week, right? I promise you. This is akin, right? This, what DJI are doing... Let me take a drink before I continue my rant. This is akin to Apple releasing the AirPods that only worked with the iPhone because it's a portable device. If you want to use the wireless speakers with your iPad, you're going to have to buy the HomePod But you can't use the HomePod with a laptop because a laptop isn't designed to be used with a computer. It's designed to be used with a portable device. But then you can't use your AirPods with your iPad or your computer because it's designed to be used outside with a portable device. They do not restrict people like this. DJI have time and time again shown that they have zero care for what users actually want and only what suits their product agenda with regards to releases, with regards to stacks. The hypocrisy in this is they will sell you an FPV drone with a remote controller and a set of goggles. They'll sell you the Avata with a set of FPV goggles and a remote. Well, they won't sell you it with the remote. They make you buy the remote separately, but it works. Yet, your lovely 3000 Mavic 3, no, you can't be trusted on the remote controller. You're going to have to use the hand sausage. So as always, DJI, fuck you. I'm the horse you rode in on. Sort it out. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you don't see DJI products seeded to me on this channel. Just fucking annoys me. It really, really does. It really, really does. Don't forget the DJI RC Pro. Yeah, don't even get me started. Yeah. So, right, I'm going to try not to have a stroke on here. Do you want to be even better? I could actually say this to DJI. I know they'll watch it. They won't watch the live streams. They watch another video. I might just do a video where I just say, hello, DJI, and goodbye. And just say that. And look, genuinely, that's why you won't see a DJI product on this channel that I don't buy. Yet I make more content on DJI products than probably almost any other channel. Period. There aren't many channels that have made as much content on DJI products as I have. Yet they won't work with me. It's quite funny, isn't it? Very, very funny indeed. Anyways, so that's the situation with the remote. The warning is, though, I think they'll take this away. I genuinely do. It's looking like it. It isn't looking like it's we did this as a workaround. It's looking like, oh crap, we weren't expecting that. It's, yeah. Welsh Yorkshireman, spade a spade. Yeah. Well, you got to say how it is sometimes. Dead cat, the best way to damage your camera. Yes. Okay, moving on. Next subject. Two things. Before we move on, I'm going to do a bit of self-promotion, why I've got most of you here. This week, the channel may hit a big milestone, actually, and I have been keeping an eye on it, and I had it already queued up, but we were, I haven't looked right now, but we were about 100 off the big 4-0. Now, there isn't a YouTube badge for 4-0. There isn't a plaque or anything like that. Yeah, we're about 100, well, actually 94 off. So it is going to happen this week at the rate I've been gaining subscribers recently anyway. And look, I just want to say a massive thank you. I don't know. Look, this isn't going to be a 40k stream. That would have to be next week now. But it is incredible to see where the channel's got to in the last 12 months. And, well, sorry, the last 2 years, I should say. It is a massive, massive step from where we were. And look, it's been a lot of work. I'm not going to pretend it hasn't. But I hope the work I've put in over that period has helped people. I really do. And look, I remember when I was struggling to get to 10k, I remember then it was like 50, 12, then 15. And yeah, it really has surprised me just how much it grew in that period. And look, I just want to say a massive thank you from me to everyone who has supported the channel. I also want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreons as well, because I put a big update on Patreon today. I put a half-an-hour video up of me wandering around in this room like a crazy madman. And I have also added a couple of things on Patreon just so people know. I put a $2 tier on there now because I didn't have one before because it was in pounds, because people were asking for it. But I do just want to say a massive thank you to all of the people with the support they've given. Huge amount of support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's just blown me away. And look, I would not be able to do the videos on the DJI stuff because they don't support me. You wouldn't be able to get that comments that I've given without the Patreons, because I am free from manufacturer influence. I do not give a toss about upsetting them because I don't work with them. And even if I did work with them, I wouldn't hold back anyway, as I don't hold back on any manufacturer I work with. But there is a price to pay for the honesty that I do give, and I would not be able to keep it running without the support of the Patreon. So I just want to say a thank you from me, because look, I try to be fair and open and honest at all times, but when companies won't work with you, then it's game, it's gloves off at the end of the day. Look, I would love to work with DJI just like I'd love to work with Ortel, just like I'd love to work with many, many companies out there. And you know what? I want to say there are companies out there that are so great to work with in FPV especially, but not only in FPV, other companies as well. And I'll tell you an up-and-coming company who are great to work with. It is them there. That company there, I can tell you now, and I'm pointing at the bamboo, that company there is going to change the industry. They are going to change the industry because the way they deal with people, the products they're delivering is just game-changing. It really, really is. But it's not just them. Radio Master, iFlight have been particularly easy for me to work with. These companies have no problems with me saying how it is most of the time. I've never had a complaint by any of them. So yeah, look, I just want to say a thank you to everyone. So to catch up on the chat, good luck with the G4. You shouldn't have to worry about getting an FC activated. Yeah, it's a weird, I don't know why they're doing this. I had some trouble getting it activated the first time, and they said they'd sort it out, and then it wasn't working, and now it is. So I don't know. I don't know what caused that. Fiscal, hey guys, can anyone help me choose which ecosystem I should jump into FPV system? Either DJI Walk Snail or Fat Shark Dominator HD0. My budget is $1,500 for all the system. My question would be, what are you doing? What type of flying are you doing? If you tell us what type of flying, I'll give you my opinion, but watch videos on all of them. Yeah, no, changes stuff. That is, or that coffee machine. No, that is the Bamboo Labs. The Bamboo Labs, the X one. That company is going to change the industry. Their KOL agreement was, we will send you a printer. If you want to make a video, go for it. If you don't, don't. We won't ask for the video printer back. We hope you enjoy it. That is how you deal with people. Got Tango 2 and Crossfire on my quads with 03. Got DJI FPV Remote 2. Been waiting to try it. Is it worth it? No. Don't use the DJI Remote, would be my advice. iPad with Goggle 2 is a great live. I got the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Very nice. I bet that looks lovely. Okay. Now, it's almost unreasonably relaxed. They are just companies, yeah, just thing. Right. What was I going to talk about next? Orca. I can't think. I'm doing it too. So, this VETech, I was going to talk about this very quickly. So, this is the flight controller I have in that build. So this is the G4 version 1.7. This is the model I am using in that build. And I am going to be doing a video on this and my first flight and my experience of it. I did have problems getting it activated. I had the problems months ago when I bought it because it sat on the shelf. And then I hadn't done the build yet, and I've now finished the build, and I'll be doing the rest of the video on it this week. It's a very interesting flight controller. A very interesting flight controller indeed. There's a lot to like. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Hard mount. We're just going to have to see how it performs. The new T-Motor G4F tech looks good. Does the T-Motor support their alpha firmware, Mr. Huggy? I don't know if it does. Now, I do have a KISS Ultra here. And I was going to put that in because I haven't flown KISS, but I ended up putting the VETech in. I've still not flown a KISS Ultra. I assume VETech have this registration on to stop other people making flight controllers that work with their software. That's what I'm assuming it's for. Yes, it comes preloaded. I haven't tried the Ultra. I have a brand new one here in a box. I just haven't had a chance. I was going to build that quad with the Ultra. What I may do is try it with the VETech and then swap over to the Ultra, is what I might do. People say the Ultra is amazing. Is there much difference between Alpha, the VETech firmware, and the Ultra with regards to feel, how it flies? That's what I'd be interested in knowing. I'm intrigued, does the Ultra fly better than the VETech Alpha firmware? That's not something I've got experience of. Now, for those who don't know, the VETech has like an online configurator. It's fairly simple and straightforward. Is this the right cable? No. Let me find the right cable. I have the Ultra and Alpha quad, and I got the Alpha giving Ultra run for his Mac FPV. Cool, that's good to hear. Now, for those who haven't seen, there's like an online configurator for this. And I'll be honest, it's quite interesting, although I did find one thing disconcerting. You can arm with the USB connected. So, you can power it up on USB. And if we go down to the configurator, which should be linked down here somewhere. Where's the link to the configurator? VETech Alpha. Come on. Let's just go that way. So, for those who haven't seen it, it is an online configurator, and it looks like this. First thing we need to do is open the COM port, and now you get this very basic view. And as Mr. Huggy said, the web interface is basically on-screen OSD setup. When you move it on here, you see it move on the OSD as well. It's basically the same thing. So, you've got like your basic info, which is down here, which shows us the firmware versions. You've then got your RC setup, which is a bit frustrating because it doesn't show you the sticks here. You don't see any of that. You end up having to go into the signals window to find everything. but it is all here, and you can see all of that there, and you can see the orientation at the bottom, which is all fine. You've then got things like you've got your PID settings, which is fairly straightforward. Look, you've just got that box there, very basic. You have your rates, so you've got your standard rate options here and your expos, so all very similar and basic. We've got tuning, so we've got throttle, PID attenuation, D-term tuning, throttle, punch eye boost, and some level mode adjustments as well. You've got your VTX setup, so you can set your control protocol, whether you're using an analog or a digital. This is analog setup there. We've then got the OSD setup, and I will say this, the OSD just worked for me. I set the UART, and it was just boom, there by our MSP. So what I was then doing is then setting what items I wanted on the screen and set the OSD type. There is HD OSD on this now as well, which I haven't set yet, which I will do later on. We've got the flight controller setup, which is the basic craft type orientation, and then you've got things such as your voltage and current sensor and all of your other options. And then you've just got things like your battery setup and your motor ESC setup there. I'm not going to go through it totally. It's a bit weird to look at first, but actually it's quite intuitive once you get your head around it. And it's not Betaflight, that's for sure, but it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. There are some quirks you need to get used to, but it isn't particularly difficult. Almac FPV. So I'm just going to close the COM port. But there is one thing I did notice is you can arm it whilst it's on USB. That should probably be fixed. What I'll be interested to know is how well it flies without tuning. Because I'll be honest, Betaflight 4.3 and 4.4, I basically barely touch tuning now. It just flies so well out the box. You barely have to tune Betaflight anymore. And I'm really intrigued. I don't want to go back to having to mess it around with the tuning too much. I don't mind, move a slider up and down. But what I don't want to do anymore, I don't think today we need to be going into this great mess of tuning for 90% of users. Messing with PIDs. Just catching up on the chat. But yeah, I just don't think I want to go back to heavy tuning again. But I'm going to fly it maybe tomorrow. Photos FPV, thanks for sharing, mate. I'm a patron as well. Do you have a video on recommending the best O3 settings for flying and recording? I thought you did, but I finally need to optimize. I don't think I've got a video on it. Look, it really comes down on O3 to the frame rate you need, because optimization is difficult. You can set the frame rate, and that will dictate how it will look, and then you're probably always better recording in wide without image stabilization and manually stabilizing in gyroflow, because it gives you the control. The problem you have with Rocksteady is if there's anything it can't remove, you're stuck with that to a point. You would be better flying in wide and just doing that. And I think people are surprised at just how wide of an image is available in O3 when you're in wide. If you look at it in gyroflow, right? So let me just open gyroflow. Let me just open gyroflow. If you look at the size of the image, and let me just find some footage a minute. it is surprising. Just right. Let me just see if that one has stabilization data in, because I can't remember. No, that must have Rocksteady. That right there. Let me just. I can't remember which of these files is stabilized and which of these isn't. Right there. No, not that one. We'll come back now. If we go. Oh, we want 5. Here we go. Okay. So let me just. So this is one of the beach shots. So if we open up Gyroflow just to have a look at how wide the image is, right? So if we click on that, you can now see there the amount of image that is actually recorded and available to you. Now, don't get me wrong, Gyroflow does stretch it out as well, but you can see the latitude that is available to you in Gyroflow and the ability you have to do the stabilization. You know, if I turn off the stabilization there, right, and if we, you can see, it's hard for you guys to see that there because it's such a small screen, but you can see it rocking back and forth. And if we now turn the stabilization on, you can see just how much is being stabilized around that image. And look, if I pause there a minute and turn the stabilization off and on, you can see, yes, we're losing some field of view for sure. It's stretching the image, it's changing the image, but you are gaining a lot more to be able to work with. And you just can't do that if you're relying on the internal stabilization. And this is the nice thing. You can fully stabilize it completely. And look, I have 2 pieces of footage here, which I'll show you, right? We've got this one, which isn't stabilized, okay? So this isn't the gyro stabilized footage. So this is as it comes. You're seeing it. This is how windy it was down there. It is quite windy. It might not look it, but you can see how much movement there was in the footage as I was flying. You know, you can clearly see the wind is pushing this quad around. That's not wind, that's me. And you'll see, I'll let it come around and then I'll show you the stabilized. And we'll let it come around. And it was windy. You can see it was surprising. And then I think I come around for a very low run along the water, okay? And you can now see, you know, you can see the jiggling, the moving of the image. Now, if I show you the same thing again, and let me actually, before I do that, let me just show you this side where I came back around much lower. So here we go, back down the other way, very low. You can see the movement in the image. You can see that taking place. Well, let me just put this there so I can see it again. There we go. And now, if I stop that and show you the stabilized version, actually, sorry about that one there, because that one's in 4K. I didn't do it in 4K the first time. Oh, does that not want to play the 4K one? Wakey, wakey. Oh, good. What have I done? Have I crashed? Oh, it looks like I've managed to crash. Where is it? The app. It doesn't want to play. Right, that's that one. Come on, thank you. That's weird. Oh, it could be. That's weird. Let's go with 5. Let's go with this one then. That's weird. It could be the codec that I changed it to. Oh, it don't like that, does it? Let's open with... Should we try Windows Media? Will Windows Media open that? Let's have a look. No. VLC doesn't like that. Try Media Player. No. Right. This is a lower resolution stabilized version. So now you can see this is the gyro flowed version of that footage. Okay. Sorry about that. No, it's not. That beach isn't actually far from me, though. So now you can see this is the stabilized. And let me just jump to the bit where you could see there I hadn't actually recovered properly on the stabilization. You saw it peek through at the top a little bit. I left it in on purpose because this bit of the footage I didn't want. Now this is a slightly lower resolution version, but you can now see the effect with gyroflow. Now I didn't level the horizon on purpose. I left the horizon as it was. I wanted it to see how it actually was flying at the time. But you can see there is a dramatic difference in the footage with gyroflow. More dog crap on Pendine, yeah. No, I wasn't. This was the problem. That's why you're seeing some jitter in the footage. No, I wasn't that day, unfortunately. And then you'll see me come back around. Yeah, you definitely need ND32 for this. And this is why there is some jello in this footage. Further on, there is some there. But you can see the difference that gyroflow has made. Yeah, a lot of light. A lot of light. But overall, yeah, gyroflow does a good job. You know, so you're far better using the gyroflow stabilization. You really, really are. Just, it gives you options. Especially when you look at it like that. Yes, I want to exit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't, to be honest, it wasn't meant to be as nice as it was. I did take that quad out for a couple of other flights just to show you, and I managed to. We actually had, let me show you, I actually had a crash, which is quite funny because I wasn't paying attention. You will laugh at this one. Let me show you this one. If people think I don't crash, I do. This was me not really paying attention, so that was fine. And then, yeah. I was flying forward and I was talking to my spotter who was with me because I was filming something. And I just said, God, can you make sure my spotter filmed the takeoff for me because I wanted to hear the noise level. And I was talking to her going, how did it sound to you? It's not that loud, is it? And then I was like, yeah, I'm in the ground. just it's what happens when you fly low and not pay enough attention. The spectator made me crash. Yes, the spectator did make me crash. However, let's just have a look at this one. So yeah, I don't think I was coming across low on these fields for a reason. Over to the rapeseed. There's a lot of flies over rapeseed. A lot of flies over rapeseed. The drone was splattered on the way back over as I was coming up. But look, anyone who says 03 looks great. Let's be realistic. 03 just looks fantastic. This was again with the iFly i3. Still a little bit of movement making it through. No ND filters here either. I forgot them again, I know. You can see the jello there in the footage because of the light level. I was just having a spin around. I love rapeseed this time of year. It just looks fantastic. Was it this one where I went up the other bench? I think I even tried to get lower. I can't remember if I did it in this one. No, I didn't. I was pushing. I wanted to get as like low as I could. But I was then thinking, I don't want to risk it. This is goggle footage now. So but you can see the jello there from the sun. But yes. Anywho. Right. I can't remember what was else in the subject tonight. What else did I say we were going to talk about? Let me bring it up. DJI FPV drone, is it end of life? Now, it's hard to say. People keep asking me about the FPV drone, and look, DJI released this new firmware this week for the Goggles 2 and the Integras, and they don't have FPV drone mode. It's not there. Now, what does this mean for the future of the FPV drone? Well, the reality is it is still available. If we look on DJI's website, you can still buy it. You can still order it. It comes with the V2 goggles. However, you can't get it with the G2s and you can't get it with the Integras. And it is my belief that it is pretty much end of life as it stands today. Now, do I think DJI will replace it? Genuinely, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know how well their FPV products have sold. I honestly don't. And I think the Avata is a very, very good drone. But I just don't know if... I don't think they got this right. I always said this. The FPV drone was the wrong mix of product. It was too big, too heavy, and too easy to break. What DJI got absolutely right with the Avata is the fact that it is bomb-proof, the fact that you can replace the ducts, but you'll be... Look, to break one takes a huge amount of work. And, you know, I have crashed that Avata so many times in that testing. It's not an FPV quad. That's the thing with the Avata. It doesn't try to be either. You know, you don't want to do flips and rolls on it. It's heavy. You know, it washes out. But what it's really good for is a bit of fun sort of whoop cine flying, and you can go into places that you wouldn't normally go into. I do think it does what it does well. I'm not saying it's perfect. I still think it's got a bug in the firmware with regards to this flip and crash. But it does do it well. I think the problem with the FPV drone is it was very good, very fast, but the second you hit anything, you would rip the arms off it. It had so little rigidity, it was insane. And I think where they got the FPV drone wrong was how easy it was to break. As an FPV drone, it's okay. The camera's not very good, but it's okay. But it does break very, very easily. Too easily. You catch anything, you will rip an arm off it. It's unforgiving. One crash, unforgiving. Whereas the Avata, you know, I've smashed mine all over the place. It's not a cine, you know, it's not a bando. It's not a. It's a slow FPV flying drone, and it is quite enjoyable with the DJI sausage. I'll be honest, it does work. You move it around, it's okay. You tend to fly it in places you wouldn't usually do it. It has a fun factor. I just don't know, though, if they're going to bring another version of the FPV drone. I think once the current stock is gone, it will be gone, as will the V2 goggles, and then we're going to have to wait and see. But it is available, but you can't get the V2 goggles on their own. Stock of it is getting lower and lower. I wouldn't recommend anyone buys it today. Put it that way. Yeah, if they only provided spares, it would be manageable. 100%. I think DJI got many things wrong on the FPV drone, and one of them was the design of how easy it is to repair and the availability of spares. If they had made it with easily swappable arms with plug-and-play wires, I think they'd have been onto a winner. I really do. But I do think they got it wrong. I do. Look, the problem is with it, right? You'll fly it, you'll get used to it, and you'll outgrow it in less than a month if you fly it well. And in that outgrowing, you're probably going to end up breaking it once. Yeah, manual isn't great on the Avata. It's okay, but it's not, yeah. I think what it's really good for, the Avata, right, is a fantastic filming drone for like estate agents. I tell you what, I'd be flying that around people's houses and getting indoor footage all day long. I would be using the Avata for real estate video and photography, period. Clarification, FPV tech. Can you use the FPV controller 2 with the O3 air unit, but you have to use a proper dual band antenna on the goggle? If you use 5.8 antenna, it will not work. That's not strictly true. It will work. What is then in debate is the range of the remote controller signal. So, it will work with the antennas not tuned to the correct band. However, it's not clear the effect it will have. What you would be more likely to have is fail-safes unexpectedly. If you're flying local around a field, you're not going to even notice it at all. If you were flying in other places, then you might. I do not advise anyone, period, uses the DJI remote on O3. The behavior is still not what I'm fully comfortable with. The only time I would say it's okay to use the DJI FPV remote version 2 with O3 is if you're flying around a field where there's no risk. So if it goes down, you'll find it. If you were flying it anywhere where there's risk, I do not advise you use it. You are far better investing in a standalone remote system. Carbon Cage FPV, no you're not. How are you? Do I think DJI will do an indoor whoop like sub 250? I think that's basically what the Avata is. I don't know. Yeah, I think there is this weight size thing that's hard for them. Is there any issues using V2 goggles with the Avata's onboard DVR? No. Not as far as I remember. Everything works as it should. Just got the O3. We'll definitely use it with RC2. The Cat Father. Yeah, look, if you're flying anywhere where there's a risk of loss of the aircraft, honestly, don't do it. Genuinely. It's not that it's terrible. It's not that it's bad. But there is some interesting behavior on signal loss, especially video signal loss as well. It's not like it's cheap, because it's not. You can get better remotes with more features for the same money. What's the price of the DJI FPV remote version 2? I don't even know. I can't remember what I paid. DJI FPV remote controller 2. The issue will be, the cat father, is how it triggers that failsafe. This DJI remote is $200. Is it $200? Is that thing genuinely $200? Okay, you are insane buying this remote, whoever's buying this remote. If you've already got it with a drone, yeah. Is it honestly that dear? 139 quid in the UK, it would be $200, wouldn't it? Jesus Christ. If you've already got it, I get it. That makes sense. Don't fricking buy that at that cost. Go and get a Boxer, for God's sake. Tango 2, something else. Get yourself a proper remote. The thing with the GPS rescue is this. You've got to understand the way the DJI system works. The issue is the behavior when you lose video or the remote control. If you lose video before the remote signal will drop, but then recover again in about a second. There is some really quirky behavior around it. You're just better having separate video and RC links. I'm seeing more, Michael. Some of it was fixed, but the overall behavior is still fairly undesirable. Before, the behavior was like when the video dropped, the remote would drop and then reconnect like 30 seconds later. Now, the remote will carry on, but you still get this quirk. I do show it in the video because I did test it and I'd need to go back and look over it myself. But there is still a quirk of the behavior. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I would personally always advise invest in a good radio system. Express ELRS, Crossfire, Ghost if you want Ghost. Never used Ghost. I believe it's very good. The people who use it tell me it's very good. Yeah, the Boxer is amazing. The Boxer is genuinely amazing. It's here. I was using it just now on the bench. This radio is everything I said it was in the review and more. This radio is bloody fantastic. And I haven't updated Edge TX yet. Is there anything interesting in the new Edge TX? I didn't look, actually. I should talk about that. I haven't actually looked if there's anything in the Edge TX new release. Flying Dutchman 2.8.3. It's not the original version for this, man. I might have it already. What have I actually got on here? I should check. Honestly, this radio is just so good. Genuinely. That's not just me saying it to be a Radio Master shill. I honestly just couldn't love this radio any more than I do. We're on 2.8.0 is what I'm on. So we're up to 2.8.3 now. Hypothetically speaking, split it, I think, or spit it. Hypothetically speaking, if DJI enables Remote ID on 03, all I would need to make is work as a GPS. Potentially, yes. Potentially, DJI could use the MSP data stream to strip off GPS data and enable remote ID if they wanted to. Lon, that's actually a very good deal. He literally purchased the DJI FPV drone kit refurbished for $579 just to get the remote controller. Cheapest on Amazon is 229 quid. Yeah, that I ended up getting one quite cheap. But yeah, they're not easy to get to. Can we get a video on how to update? Yeah, I'm going to need to do it myself. I haven't updated. What's new in it? Because I haven't looked. Does anyone know? What's changed? Fix. Spectrum GPS. Like, I'm not really sure there's a great need to update here. Look, it's bug fixes, 2.81. The Boxer radio is supported. So I've got 2.80, which must be modified. So mine is a beta release. I haven't updated it since I've got it. Radio Master Boxer. Yeah, so I haven't actually installed the proper release that has the Boxer in yet. I hadn't done it. Because it just works. I'm not really sure there's a great need to update, but I'm probably going to have to do it. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I better not lose everything. Just that you can brick radios. Is there a thing in there that can brick the radios, is there? I haven't come across that. I'm just reading down the notes. Yeah, looks fairly straightforward. You can see the download is available here. So we would want the Edge TX I'm guessing that's the companion, and I'm guessing that's the firmware. We would need both of them. Do you know what? I don't like the companions on these radios. Yeah, that is an interesting point Lon has made there, and I think, look, DJI's history, and I don't, I think it would be unfair to criticize them for this, is when they offer you an update to a compliance, so whether that be remote ID or whether that be C rating for Europe, it's one way. And if they were to do it, I suspect it would be the same situation with O3. I absolutely see DJI looking at bringing remote ID to O3. It is a no-brainer. It just is. It just is. And then there'll be a question of, do you want to update or not? Hey, here's a conspiracy. Perhaps the Orca bricking was to force remote ID on everyone. No. It's not true. Don't run with it. It's not happening. Not the case. Yeah. Conspiracy by Orca. You heard it first. Orca hybrid confirmed, yeah, on analog FPV goggles. Tell you what I am disappointed at in the meme thing. And look, we've come to an end on all of this, so I'm going to chat for a few minutes. I am disappointed in the memes that have been generated for the Orca situation. It is horrible. I know it's not great, but We memed the hell out of CADX and You Don't Get to Know and the Spider-Man memes around CADX, Walk Snail, DJI, and Fat Shark. The memes were incredible at that time. Yeah, we haven't had some good ones for the Orca one yet. We need some memeing going on to make everyone feel better. For all those pilots who can't fly, we need memes to improve it. Now, if you guys have got any questions for the last few minutes, please do let me know and put them in the chat and I will try and answer them. We'll go to midnight tonight, which is here in the UK. If there's anything you want to know, please do let me know and I will try and answer it. Yes, Lon is correct. Once it's on, it can't be removed. It's not DJI's fault. The real issue will be if they have to introduce remote ID on the ear units. Any future ones you buy will come with it on as standard, and you're going to not be able to downgrade to get rid of it. But we can't blame DJI for that. What's my opinion of the current state of Walk Snail? Where do I see the system going in a year? Let me just move that cable. I'm about to run over a USB-C. They have made dramatic improvements, but they have also now stagnated. So there are... When Avatar released, I was the person that said, this is an alpha product, do not buy. Okay? I had a very different experience to other people. However, to be absolutely fair to them, they have developed it from alpha, do not buy. I have said it is now a ready-to-use product, but it doesn't have all of its features. So today it is dramatically better, but it isn't perfect. It still doesn't work properly in 1200 milliwatts mode. They're driving the amps to the max. We don't have spectator mode yet, although it is coming apparently. We don't have focus mode. It just doesn't work. And there is still the overriding compression behavior that it has, especially in greens. And they took away a lot of the dynamic range in that firmware update to improve the compression behavior. And that, yeah, gamma. They basically still took the gamma away. Yeah, basically they reduced the gamma because that was the only way they could deal with the compression. So blinking OSD, very distracting, still there. It has a number of issues still. Now, here is where the problem with the Avatar system is. The problem isn't necessarily the system. The problem is the marketing. Okay. So here's a bit of real truth for you. The Avatar HD system advertises itself. Its cameras can do 120 frames a second. So let's go to CADX. Let's just look a second, right? Let me show you this. Walk Snail Avatar HD. Look, here we go. We'll go down and we'll go, oh, look at these new lovely cameras. HD Pro Kit. Let's have a look at this. This is lovely. Looks good. Supports 1080p, 120 high frame rate. Right. 120 frames a second. That number is there because DJI does 120 frames a second. That number isn't there because the Avatar HD system can do 120 frames a second. It cannot. It can only do 100. The VRX can only do 100. The goggles can only do 100. The system is limited to 100 frames a second. Yet they advertise it as being able to do 120 frames a second. It has that because DJI has that. It has a focus mode because DJI has a focus mode. The system was openly believed to be a copy of DJI or DJI at the start because they made it look like it. What Walk Snail is a typical Chinese clone of another product. It is designed to look and feel like the DJI system. So people go, oh, that number's the same as that. It's just as good. I'll have that. That's why it says to have a spectator mode. That's why it says to have a focus mode. That's why it says it does 120 frames a second. It is marketing to ensure that it doesn't fall behind in spec. It's nonsense. So the problem with Avatar is it isn't a product that's really started up to really deliver something. It's a product that was started to stop you giving DJI money and give it to Cadex. Or to allow you to continue to give money to Cadex when DJI were going to move on to 03 because they knew it was coming. The system is better than it ever was. I think it's if we accept the original DJI FPV system is end of life, and we look at this interpretation as the Vista and Air unit are no longer available, then I think the Walk Snail system is the best general FPV system. I would say HD0 is by far the best racing, the best user-developed system, but it lacks image quality overall still. And DJI is by far the best image quality, out-of-box experience, recording, long range probably. Avatar does really good long range, mind. No limit, remember. And HD0, obviously. So Avatar is the middle ground now. Whereas DJI was the middle ground, Avatar is now the middle ground. DJI is high end. HD0 is straddling the racing to middle ground market. I am comfortable recommending the system today, but what it lacks is a true vision of where it wants to be. And this is why Cadex keeps saying, tell us what you want and we'll give it to you. What they're basically saying is this: keep telling us what we want so we can get you to give us your money. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not for 1 minute saying that's bad. I have a really good relationship with Cadex, and it's great. But what they're not is delivering a product with a vision, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. It's a product that is being designed to get you to give them money. And look, you can't complain. They're listening to people. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you want. But what I'd also like to see from them is a bit of vision. And like, here's a feature we thought would be great. Do you know what I mean? You know. Fat Shark really jumped the shark by dropping HD0. Fat Shark could have milked the racing market with these 100%. Is there much scope for HD0 improving by virtue of software updates? Okay, so we are still waiting on the 1080p mode on HD0. I haven't got a video on it because it's not working yet. I want to make that HD0 content, but I can't until it's working. I can't run out there and say, hey, look at this, when it's not working. I'm really looking forward to the 1080p 30 mode. I think HD0 is beginning to peak at where the ASIC is today. I think to do any more, Carl is going to have to deliver a new ASIC. Remember, Carl is limited. He can't do 50 megabits a second. His RF pipeline is limited by 20 megabits a second. Or 20 megahertz. Or 18 or whatever it is. I can't remember. Was he 27? I can't remember if Carl's 27. His RF bit is limited. So Carl is now playing the game of the pipe is fixed. I can only now change how I put the data through it. So I either put down 720, I either put down 540p at 90 frames a second, or I'm putting down 1080p at 30 frames a second. What I can't do is expand that pipeline to give me 720p at 90 frames a second because he just doesn't have the data rate. They are all struggling. One observation I will make is everyone is struggling right now to get their product where it needs to be. Do I think that DJI buggered it somehow? I tried 30 frames a second on 03 and it's hilarious. Don't fly it if you don't want to crash. I was flying it this week. It's all over the place. It's not nice at all. Do I think DJI buggered it somehow? I'll be honest, I don't remember it being that bad. I flew it this week and it is really bad in the goggles. Can you see it here in this footage? See, I've got goggles footage here. What's this? Let me just look what this recorded in. So this is tools. Let me just show this. What's this in? So this is in 30 frames a second, right? So this is the goggles footage recorded in 30 frames a second. Okay. And I'm just trying to see if you can see the judder that I could see. You can see it. It's not smooth at times. Can you see? I don't know how well you guys can see it there. Originally, it didn't have it. No, that's right. Ignore the jello, but it's like stuttery. There's some processing going on board, and it doesn't feel great. It drops. Yeah, you know what? And that could be it. It could be dropping frames. When it's live, it feels weird. 100%. It feels really weird live. Really weird live. Yeah. Yeah, it genuinely does. It does. And look, yeah, they could be dropping frames. I never thought of that. Boo-hoo, we need 30 frames a second. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be using 60 again. 60 is where I'll put it back to. I'll be better doing 60 and adjusting it in Resolve and putting 60 down to 30 in Resolve. It just looks better, I think. Look, 03 is fantastic. I do love how it looks. It genuinely is one of the best looking FPV systems. No, it genuinely is the best looking FPV system. It's the best out of the box experience. DJI smashed it again. They're just not filling the bando market right now. I assume we don't have cameras, therefore they're not working with third parties. They've clearly seemed to be not working. If anyone was going to do one, it'd be RunCam. Wouldn't be CADX, let's be honest. If anyone was going to bring one, it'd be RunCam. I have no info, not heard a thing about RunCam releasing a camera for 03 at all. Nothing. I think if DJI wanted to recapture 90% of the FPV market, they release a ear unit light with a traditional-ish FPV camera. It doesn't have to look as perfect as 03. It doesn't have to have image stabilization. I think people would be very, very interested. Dracox Ruse, can I explain fast? On that, no. Basic. Okay, so what you got to understand. So image compression is a complicated subject. What you are doing, though, is throwing away data. Okay, so if you imagine image compression, what you need to do is look at, say, 2 frames of data and look at what's changed and what's not and decide which part of the frame you need and which part you don't. And then you can decide how much of it you need to carry through and how much you don't. The very basics are, though, you're having to remove unnecessary data. The difference between what DJI does and what CADX does is the algorithm itself. So DJI's macro blocks. So you break the image up into little areas and then you compress those areas in different ways. So you can set areas of interest, which are high detail areas. You can set areas of low interest, which can have higher compression. I can't explain this quickly. The very basics are DJI's algorithm is far more refined, H.265, just better in every way than Cadex's. Run snail. Snail run, yeah. Are they going to make Run Snail? Yeah, I've not seen any of the Run Cam. Run Cam one not going to be given access to Avatar. That's for sure, are they? Cadex, Run Cam, not going to happen. 03 at 1 megabits looks a lot better than Avatar. I'm not convinced Avatar's running H.265. I'll be honest. I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. There's no easy way of knowing, but I'm not convinced. And look, you can write the words H.265 codec, and you can have that in many, many different ways. You could mean you're recording in H.265. It's not clear. I'm not convinced. Not convinced. If we look at the website, see, Avatar HD uses H.265 code, an industry-leading technology, to provide 1080p FPV image quality with ultra-low latency. You can interpret that many, many ways. Does look good now, mind. Does look better. It definitely looks better. 8 motor quad's my next build. The next quad I want a Cinelog 35 by GEP-RC. This is the quad that I want next. This is absolutely the next drone I will be building or buying. Without doubt. I think this is a fantastic looking quad. And I want one on the channel, and I am going to build one, or I'm going to order one. I don't know whether to do a build video, or I don't know whether to buy one and do a review. This is the pinnacle of Cinewhoops. I like small quads as well, I'll be honest. I've been flying the Defender. I've been flying the... Yeah, there's... Good old GEP-RC, yeah. I might send them a message on Twitter. See if they answer. I've been flying this a lot. I like this. Needs bigger motors. Right. It's late. I'm going to wrap this one up. Haven't seen the GPS equipped version for sale yet. Mads Tech, you might have to build. Yeah, I may. That sub 25 whoop looks like interesting. Still 1S. That 6S 13 millihundred amp. Whoop Fly looks interesting. Still 1S. The sub 250 Whoop Fly looks interesting. Sorry, Matthew. I read it wrong the first time. Right. I'm going to call it a day. Right. Orca users, please do take care. I want to say thank you to everyone. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. We'll be back same time, same place next week. It's going to be a 40K show next week. It's going to happen. Massive thank you to everyone from me. Stay safe, Mr. Anderson. Are there any long antennas with SMA? I need a long lead on it. Yes. Check out Flyfish RC. They've now got loads of antennas as well, including dual antennas for 03, which I'll be talking about soon. Anyway, that's it, everyone. Thank you to everyone for the super chats. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe. Eric Fandoff put one in for €11. I didn't get a chance to say a thank you. big thank you from me. Look after yourself. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon. Button 1, button 2.